High frequencies, everyone. Checking in with a dream. At first, I wasn't gonna share, but I was like, okay, yeah, I have some weird dreams sometimes, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't even want to share it, but I'm going to share it nonetheless. Oh, sorry about that, y'all. Okay, started off, and I have a lot of dreams like this where I'm in the church because I grew up in the church, and my mother would make sure we went to church Wednesday Bible study or Sunday morning and night, and if it was revival, we was at all of that too. So a lot of the conditioning that has occurred in my earlier stages of trance work, when you're in the deep offset stages, is when you're younger. So from like 0 to 8, that was my deep conditioning and trance that I was in, and it all stems from the church. But when I'm in a dream state like last night, I get to go back, and it's like I'm doing work of an awakening of people who are in church or who are bound mentally by, that program. So, and for some people, it's needed. In the dream, I was there, and it was like my mother had taken us back to church. And the church that I grew up in, it was this foyer area where you first come in, it's an information desk, and then you have these pictures. You have these pictures of the I pretty much want to say the forefathers of Church of God in Christ. And I live here in Deep South. I'm in Memphis, Tennessee. And so you would have Charles Harrison Mason, Sr., him, the forefather of Church of God in Christ. And then after that, you would have Bishop James Oglethorpe Patterson. He was next. And then, of course, he transitioned. And then you have his son, Bishop J.O. Patterson Jr. And then I'm quite sure now they have Charlie, which is J.O. Patterson Jr.'s son, which he was named after his great-grandfather, which was Charles Harrison Mason Sr., who founded Church of God in Christ. Now, I know the history of this. I grew up with the family. I grew up with Charlie, although he is the pastor now over at the church that I grew up in now. He is the pastor now. His father has transitioned. He's taken over. And it was something within the dream. I'm seeing their pictures up, because I remember as a little girl when I would go into the open space area where the information desk was, I would see these huge pictures and that huge gold framework, and they was like set to the side, like people honored and reverenced these pictures because of, it's historic for one, of the man who actually which they don't say, but he intertwined hoodoo and various forms of witchcraft with Catholicism, and which birthed Kojic, Church of God in Christ. And so these pictures that I just told you about were up there. Well, in my dream, I'm seeing these pictures, but what's being downloaded and formed into me is I would say the subconscious programming that's being done with those pictures that's up there to the members that people don't really know. So it's a lot of that. And it wasn't like verbalized, but it was more so of an inputting or imparting of information while I was standing in this area next to my mother. And it was like, she wanted to, of course, my mother's transition last year. It's like she wanted to bring my sister back to the church. And my sister, which is 9 years older than me, she was like, she wanted to go back, and she saw her friends that she grew up with, and she was excited to be back in church because, she's still in the church program and mindset right now in this reality, right? So standing there. It was like my mom was over here to my left, and I was standing there. It was like looking at the pictures, receiving the information, feeling very uneasy, knowing that this is what is going on with those pictures up there, and them subconsciously like brainwashing people with the work that they're doing. Like, if you founded a religion or integrated these religions together, that is masterful, hands down. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's also blinding because you're not uncovering everything that you collectively brought together, honestly, in order to build this foundation of what they call Church of God in Christ and this denomination of Christianity, or with portions of Catholicism mixed in with, the Christian belief system and hoodoo, right? Because within the church, there is a possession, right? I grew up watching people being, extremely taken over by what was called the spirit, but it was just like a voodoo ceremony of possession by the spirits. And this is done. There's what they call speaking in tongue, but there's really never anyone who's around to interpret. There's a lot of things that go on within the Kojic church that I can speak on, because I spent majority of my life under that. And then after when J.O. Patterson Jr., senior transitioned, my mother went on to G.E. Patterson's church. All right, so all of it, and all of them are family. G.E. Patterson, I do believe, is the nephew of J.O. Patterson Sr. All of this, which, and people put these people up on so many high pedestals and regards, and, because they have basically, from my perspective, brainwashed the Black community, especially in the South and really all over, because they have a huge congregation where people spend thousands of dollars, to be here, to eat, and to fellowship with each other, just to hear various people, bring a message. And it's extremely weird to me. I never went to a convocation. And even the word within itself is just a whole nother thing. But you're invoking, it's all centered around this hoodoo perspective, but it's being painted blindly to people as just, good and Christian, because that's really what was colonized and given to us to think was good, was these Catholic or Christian belief system, and our belief system was evil. But anyway, getting back to the dream. So I'm seeing these pictures and this information being downloaded into me about all of this. And so my sister runs over, and she's on the right of me. My mother's on the left, and I'm in the center, and I'm just I'm very unhappy. I didn't want to be there. And my sister's so happy. She was telling my mom, she was like, well, I'm happy that I'm here. I got to see all my friends, blah, 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 blah. So she was really happy. And she was like, good, I'm glad that you're here. And so I was trying to explain to my mother why I didn't want to be there, and the reason why was kind of like based on what I just told you all. So we move on through the church, and we go on to what is the back, or what is the side of the church, going into the main auditorium, not even the main sanctuary is what they call it. So going in that area. And then we see my father. My father looks about 40 years younger than he is now. He's 74. We see him. There is a program that's going on now. Now, this is where it kind of taps into a dream I've had before. There's a program that's going on where they are highlighting different people from the LGBTQ transgender community that felt like they didn't have a voice before in church. But now, since everything has changed in the world and has kind of been pushed into the church, now this church is highlighting and having a program strictly for the LGBTQ community. Now, I've had a dream before, maybe about a month ago, about me being back in the church, and in the church there was a program, kind of like a pageant or something of sorts for the transgender LGBTQ community. There was this transgender whatever, man, woman, I don't know what it was, but I think it was a woman used to be a man, or man wanted to be a woman, one of the ones. But anyway, he was the one that was receiving the award. He had been crowned as queen, king, whatever, king, queen, whatever, I don't know, of the pageant. Well, anyway, I'm seeing this program happen in the dream, and then I was telling, I don't know who was around me at the time, I was saying, I had a dream about this. They doing this? I'm like, they really gonna do this in church? Like, bring this into like a sacred place of, it has gotten this far. Well, now the LGBTQ community is now having pageants in the church. So that is, that's what happened. And they had, of course, all their little rainbow flag and all that kind of stuff going on, whatever. So then the dream transitioned to me being with my mother, and I've been having a lot of dreams like this, where we were extremely wealthy, and I was a part of like this debutante ball, but it wasn't a ball. It was kind of like a Miss USA pageant with other ladies, and it was only me and this other lady. We were only two black women, and I was in the back, really trying to get all my stuff together, what I was gonna wear for my, my gown, and what I wanted to wear for my to showcase, because I was doing dance, to showcase my entertainment factor. And I realized I didn't have my swimwear. And I told my mom, I was like, you need to go get my swimsuit. I don't have my swimsuit. And she was like, oh, if I go get your swim. I was like, Mom, I need a swimsuit. I ain't going to be able to do this. I was like, oh my goodness. So then I'm putting on this dress that I'm like, this is the dress, or I had leggings on there. First I didn't have anything. I put leggings on and I practiced my dance. And then I looked at the clock, and the clock was 9:42. And I was like, I'm late. Or was it 9:41? I think it was 9:41. I look at the clock, it's 9:41. I'm like, I'm late. It started at 9 o'clock. So we rush out of it was like this huge hotel, really nice. And we rush over. It's like we get there in an instant, and the ladies have been walking around in their gowns getting introduced. Well, I had put on my gown, and I was like, this is really not a gown, but I was wearing this for my dance. But I end up coming in, and I was late, and then they were done. So then we were meeting up, and the lady who was over it was this older black lady. And I went up to her. I was like, I'm so sorry that I'm late. I got caught up. Will I be able? She was like, yes. You go on next. I have you on next, but it's okay. She was like, I was in this before, and I won, and it's gonna be passed down to you. You just relax. You got it. And I was like, yes. I was like, thank you. That was the confidence that I need to feel like I wasn't just late and not going to be able to participate. And she said, you're next, you going on next. And it was something that I had to do that was already set up. It was kind of like they had like this obstacle, and I had to go to this museum and everything, and they had me set up next. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, I got this. I was like, I ain't even got nothing to worry about. By her telling me that, I knew I was good. So then the dream transitioned to me, like with my uncle, but we were going skydiving. That was one of his favorite things to do. He wanted to skydive. So like I said, said before in the dream, it came off like, we were extremely wealthy. And so I was visiting my uncle. I needed some advice from him. And one of the things he wanted to do was go skydiving. So he put on this yellow and black, huge, had wings. The wings came all over his head when he put his arms out. And it went from like me being in first person, like interacting with him, to a third eye view as he just went out into the air. And he asked me, he's like, do you want to skydive? And I was like, no, I'm not ready. I'll maybe do it next time. And he was like, okay. So I walked with him, and in some type of way we ended up in the air, and I ended up like in the air with him, third eye view in the air with him. And I saw him soar inside of a dragon and then come back out, and then soar inside of a dragon's tail and cut it off and back out. It was like he was able to soar in, pull out information from the dragon, and come back out. It's very weird. So yeah, that was the dream last night. Very interesting as it goes from breaking down, of course, how I grew up, of the whole church dynamic, of how the church, doesn't give all the information. And then, now what has come up twice, and I haven't been to church in decades. It's been, yes, it's been over 10 years, but it's been a while. Except for my mother's memorial service. I had to go to church for her service last year, but other than that, just to go out of free will, just to be there. Yeah, that was a dream of breaking down the concepts and the mindset of what has been going on with Kojic, and what people believe. It's not really what is being done, and it's, you do your research. For those who may watch this video and be like, no, it's not witchcraft, it's not hoodoo, it's not voodoo, and you haven't researched nothing. The only thing you've done all your life was go to that church and believe everything that people tell you. Just do some research. Just read some books. Read some books, get some research, do your own in-depth search, go before the Creator and ask this to be revealed to you, because that's the only thing that has happened to me. When I was standing there in that area and that information was imparted to me, that's what was told to me. And you don't have to agree with me. You don't. You can have your own opinion about Kojic, about Catholicism, about voodoo, witchcraft, whatever you feel like. I have been given information from source energy, from my higher self, what I have complete knowing in, that has shown to me information about these various belief systems that people put all their energy into without giving you the power and giving you the correct information to make an informative decision. That was one of the things I told my mother in the dream too. And I told her, I was like, I've only been here coming to this church because you made me come here. I wasn't here because I wanted to. I was a child and I was made to come here, and I wasn't given a choice. So I told her, I said, so now, and all this has come to me now, wonderful. Now that I have a choice, I choose not to, because now I understand what it really is. And I said, when I was young, I didn't know because I didn't have a choice. I just was led because you were my parent, and I did basically what you had me do as a little girl. And so that's what you have to do. You're not a little boy anymore. You're not a little girl anymore. You are a full adult. And just like how we are supposed to be an adult, or how we take care of our bodies and not rely on somebody outside of us to take care of us, that's the same thing we have to do about our knowledge about the spiritual aspects of who we are. We have to take ownership and know about those things that we carry as our truths and our knowing. If we haven't done any research, if we haven't done any real inward searching and connection to source, those are some things you have to do before you just take those things that have been repeated throughout your life as your belief system. So yeah, peace.